First. So today we're doing the seventh day of Paryushan, Pratikraman for the seventh day, and we'll do a daily Pratikraman. So for those of you who are here for the first time, Pratikraman is a very ancient ritual, a very ancient ritual that is in one of our agams called the Avashak Sutra. And Avashak means essential. And so Pratikraman is made up of the 6 things that we should do every day that are essential for us as lay people. So we won't do the full Pratikraman that you see next door. What we will do is focus on the Pratikraman itself. And so we should finish within 48 minutes, hopefully. If you need chairs, you can pull them up from there alongside here. Just make another row. So the 6 parts of Pratikraman are together today as what we call Devsi Pratikraman for the day. I would encourage all of you to go tomorrow and do Samvatsari Pratikraman. Samvat means year. So today you're doing Pratikraman for the day, tomorrow it will be for the whole year. The purpose of Pratikraman is to go backwards and cleanse your mind. Let go of all the things that you have done wrong so that your mind is free to move forward. And to do that, what we will do today is go through every possible type of pap, sin that you could do, which will mean that essentially you are saying Michami Dukram for every possible type of pap. So to do that, there are 2 things that I would ask from you. Shh. The first is that you focus on what we are saying so that your attention is always here. And the second is when you say Michami Dukram, you say it with bhav. You're asking for forgiveness. Put your bhav into it, the same bhav you did when you did the pap, so that you get a result. Okay? So the first Avashak will start now. But before we start, let's say Nokar Mantra together. So please sit upright, your spine straight, and say after me. Om Namo Arihantanam.
Om Namo Arihantanam.
Om Namo Siddhanam.
Om Namo Siddhanam.
Om Namo Ayariyanam.
Om Namo Ayariyanam.
Om Namo Uvajayanam.
Om Namo Vajayanam.
Namo Loye Savasahunam.
Namo Loye Savasahunam.
Eso Panchanamokaro.
Eso Panchanamokaro.
Sarva Pavaparasano.
Sarva Pavaparasano.
Mangaladam cha savesim.
Mangalam cha savesim.
Padhamam havai mangalam.
Padamam havai mangalam.
So we'll start with the first Avashak, which is Samaik. Samaik is a vow of equanimity, that you vow to sit in one place, that you vow not to speak anything, not to think anything bad, and to have your focus on what we're doing today.
સિમંદર સ્વામીની આજ્ઞા લઈને
દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવચોક સેવાના પચકાંગ ક્ષેત્ર થકી આખા લોક પ્રમાણે કાળ થકી ઉપરાંત 2 ઘડી ઉપરાંત ન પાડો ત્યાં સુધી પાવ થકી 6 કોટીએ પચકાણ કરેમી પંતે સમયમ સાવચોક પચકામી જાવ નિયમ પચવા સામી દુબિન તિવેણમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા તસ્સ પંતે પડિકમામી નિંદામી કરિયામી અપ્પાણં વસિરામી.
The second
સંભળાય છે
Avashak,
પાછળ?
the second Avashak is Chovisanto. Chovisanto is giving praise to the 24 Tirthankars who have taught us this religion. To do that, we will all say Logos together.
લોક સૌ જય કરે ધમ્મતીર્થય રે ચિરે અરિહંત ગીત ઈસમ ચોવીસંપી કેવલી ઉસભમજ્યમ ચ વંદે સંભવમભિનંદનમ ચ સુમયમ ચ ઉપરંત શિયલ સિંચન ચ વાસુ પૂજન ચ વિમલમણંત ચ જીર્ણમ તમમ સંતિ ચ વંદામિ કુંતુમરં ચ મલ્લી વંદે મુનિ સુવર્ણામિ જીર્ણમ ચ વંદામિ રીતનેમિ આસંતઃ વર્ધમાનં ચ એવં માયે અભિધુઆ વિયુરયમલાપહીન ચરમરણ ચોવીસંપિ જીવરા તીર્થયરામે પશ્યન્તુ કીર્તિય વંદીય મહિયા ચેતે લોકસ ઉત્તમસિદ્ધ આરુગવોહિ લાભમ સમાહિ વરમુત્તમદિન્તુ ચંદેસુ નિમલહરા ऐचेषु ऐहं पयासहरा सागरवरगम्भीरा सिद्धा सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु.
The third Avashak is Vandana. We do Vandana to our gurus who help us understand the religion of Jainism. To say Vandana, we will say Tikuto 3 times.
टिक्खुतो अयाहिणं पयाहिणं वन्दामि नमस्वामि सत्कारेमि सम्मानेमि कल्याणं मङ्गलं देव्यं चेव्यं विश्वासामि मध्ये वन्दामि. टिक्खुतो अयाहिणं पयाहिणं वन्दामि नमस्वामि सत्कारेमि सम्मानेमि कल्याणं मङ्गलं देव्यं चेव्यं विश्वासामि मध्ये वन्दामि. टिक्खुतो अयाहिणं पयाहिणं वन्दामि नमस्वामि सत्कारेमि सम्मानेमि कल्याणं मङ्गलं देव्यं चेव्यं विश्वासामि मध्ये वन्दामि.
So now we've done the first 3. The fourth Avashak is Pratikraman. Pratikraman is to cleanse your mind, speech and body, because Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gnan and Samyak Charitra is the path to moksha. So in that path, whatever mistake you've made, we now say all the possible pap that you could have done, and together we'll say Michami Dukram.
જ્ઞાનના અતિચાર દિવસ સંબંધી જ્ઞાન દર્શન ચારિત્ર અને તપને વિશે જે અતિચાર લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું. આગમે તેવી હે પન્નતે તંજા સુતાગમે અથાગમે તદુપયાગમે એવા શ્રી જ્ઞાનને વિશે જે અતિચાર લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું. જમવાયમ ધમ વચાયમયમ હિણકખર અચખખર પયહિણ વિયણહીણમ જોગહીણમ ઘોષહીણમ સુઠુદીઠમ દૂઠું પડી છે. અકાલે કહો સજાવો, કાલે ન કહો સજાવો, અસજાએ સજાએ સજાએ અન સજાએ એમ ભણતા ગણતા ચિંતવતા 14 પ્રકારે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અરિહંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાનની સાક્ષીએ તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
So that translates to during this day, whatever blemishes have occurred in my worship on knowledge, faith, character, I am repenting. If I have recited the scriptures in an incorrect order, if I have recited them inattentively, if I have used lesser words, if I have used more words, if I have missed any verses, if I have recited the scriptures without respect, if I have recited them with a mind that is not steady, or with speech or body that is not steady, if I have recited without correct pronunciation, if I have given knowledge to a person that is not worthy, if I have been disrespectful or gained knowledge without permission, if I have recited scriptures at a time that is not proper, if I have not recited at the correct time, if I have recited them in a place that is not proper, if I have not recited them in a proper place, if I have done any of these things today, then tasmichami dukkadam.
દર્શન સંકિત દર્શનમ સંકિત પરમથ સંથો વા સુદીઠ પરમથ સેવણા વા વી પાવન કુદર્શન વજણા સંમત સદણા એવા સંકિતના સમણો આસેણમ સંમતસ્સ પંચયારા પેયાલા જાણિયા ન સમાયરા સંજાતે આલવ શંકા કંકા વિતિકિચ્છા પરપાસન પંસસા પરપાસન સંથવો એમ સંકિત રૂપ રત્નને વિશે મિથ્યાત્વ રૂપ રજ મેલ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અરિહંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાનની સાક્ષીએ તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
Towards the true faith, towards the true God, the true Guru, and the true religion, if I am trying to realize the highest truth, and in realizing the truth, I associate with those who have deserted after enlightenment, those who have abandoned the path to follow those that are hypocrites, those who have kept faith in those who don't follow the true religion. If I have kept faith in religion, and in that faith I have followed sadhus of true faith, so that I do not doubt the faith, I do not desire the opinions of those that are hypocrites, I don't doubt the benefits of holy deeds, I don't appreciate the opinions of hypocrites, and I don't associate with them. If today I have done any of these things, then tasmichami dukkadam.
શ્રાવકના 12 વ્રત. પહેલું અણુવ્રત થુલ્લાઓ પાણાઈ વાયો વેરમણમ ત્રસ્ય જીવ બેન્દ્રિય તેન્દ્રિય ચોરેન્દ્રિય પચેન્દ્રિય જીવ જાણી પ્રીચી સ્વસંબંધી શરીર માહેલી પીડાકારી સહ અપરાધી વિકલેન્દ્ર વિના આકુટી હણવા નિમિત્તે હણવાના પચખાણ તથા સૂક્ષ્મ એકંદ્રિય પણ હણવાના પચખાણ જાવ જીવાએ દુહિમ તિવેણમ ન કરીમી ન કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા પહેલા થુલ પ્રાણાતિપાત વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચ અયારાજ પેયાલા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજાતે આલો બંધે વયે છવી છીએ અયભારે ભત્ત પાણવો છે એવા પહેલા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
So now we have the Shravak Nabar Vrat, the 12 vows of a Shravak. And these are the rules by which we should all live. The first vow is the vow to refrain from gross violence towards lives. I refrain from violence towards life that moves around and has a soul with 2 senses, touch and taste. For example, worms. Souls that have 3 senses, with touch, taste, and smell, like ants or lice. Souls that have 4 senses, touch, taste, smell, and vision, like flies and bees. Souls that have all 5 senses, touch, taste, smell, vision, and hearing, like animals and people. Knowingly or unknowingly, if by myself or through somebody else, if I have inflicted pain or offended any one of these lives, whether they're 2 senses, 3 senses, 4 senses, or 5 senses, deliberately, intentionally, or kill them, I vow not to kill and not ask others to kill even the smallest organisms as long as I live, either myself or through somebody else, either by mind, through speech, or through body. These lives I will not tie with strong cords. I will not attack using sticks or other implements. I will not pierce them in the nose, ear, or other limbs. I will not laden them with weight. I will not deprive them of food and water, having evil intentions. If today I have done any of these, then tasmichami dukram.
બીજું અણવ્રત થુલ્લાઓ મુસાયા વાયાઓ વેરમણમ કન્નાલિક ગોવાલિક ભોમાલિક થાપણ મોસો મોટકી કુડી સાખ ઇત્યાદિક મોટકું જુઠ્ઠું બોલવાના પચખાણ જાઉં જીવાએ દુહિમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા બીજા થૂલ મૃષાવાદ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચ અયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા તે આલવું સહસા પખાણે રહસા પખાણે સદાર મંતપે મોસવયે કુડખ લેહે કરણે એવા બીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The second vow is the vow of not saying lies. I refrain from lies pertaining to brides or husbands to be, lies pertaining to animals, lies regarding land, speaking lies with the intention of not returning somebody's things, lies by being a false witness for an event, and other such gross lies I vow not to speak as long as I live, either by myself or through others, in mind, speech, or body. I will not say shocking and alarming speech. I will not reveal somebody's confidentiality. I will not reveal the secrets of my own wife or husband. I will not preach something that I know is false. I will not write something that I know is false. If today I have done any of these, then tasmichami dukram.
ત્રીજું અણુવ્રત થુલ્લાઓ અદીના દાણાઓ વેરમણમ ખાતર ખણી કાઠડી છોડી તાળુ પર કુચીએ કરી પડી વસ્તુ ધણિયાતી જાણી ઇત્યાદિક મોટકું અદાદાદન લેવાના પચકાણ સગા સંબંધી તથા વ્યાપાર સંબંધી ન ભરમી વસ્તુ ઉપરાંત અદાતાદાન લેવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાએ દુહિમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા ત્રીજા થૂલ અદાતાદાન વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા તે આલવું તેના તડે તકર ભોગે વિરુદ્ધ રજાઈ કમે કુટતોલે કુડમાણે તપડીહળ રૂગે વવારે એવા ત્રીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી કોઈ પણ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The third vow is the vow of refraining from theft. I refrain from stealing treasure that is buried, opening other people's packages, opening somebody's lock with another key, knowingly take somebody's belongings. In addition to that, I vow not to take somebody's valuable belongings without permission. Apart from things that are insignificant or of little value, I vow not to take anything without permission. As long as I live, either by myself or through somebody else, in mind, speech, or body, I vow not to take stolen goods. I vow not to help somebody who is a thief. I vow not to do anything against the law. I vow not to use wrong weights or measures. I vow not to give inferior goods after showing superior goods. If today I have done any of these, then tasmichami dukram.
ચોથું અણવ્રત થુલાઓ મેહુણાઓ વેરમણમ સદાર સંતોષીએ અવશેષે મેહુણ વિહીના પચકાણ અને જે સ્ત્રી પુરુષને મૂળ થકી કાયાઈ કરી મેહુણ સેવાના પચકાણ હોય તેને દેવતા મનુષ્ય તિર્યત સંબંધી મેહુણ સેવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાએ દેવતા સંબંધી દુયમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા મનુષ્ય તિર્યત સંબંધી એક વિહણમ ન કરેમી કાયસા એવા ચોથા થૂલ મેહુણ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયના જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા તે અલગુ ઇત્રીય પરિગ્રહાગમણે અપરિગ્રહાગમણે અનંગ કીડા પર વિવાહ કરણે કામ ભોગે સુતીવા ભિલાસા એવા ચોથા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The fourth vow is the vow to refrain from gross sensuality. Apart from one's own wife or husband, I vow to be contented and not with anybody else. I am forbidden other sensual pleasures, either by myself or through somebody else, through mind, speech, or body, not having marital relations when a husband or wife is of an immature age, having premarital relations, having perverse relations, taking unconcerned interest in getting others married, being obsessive towards sensualism. If today I have done any of these, then tasmichami dukkanam.
પાંચમું અણુવ્રત થુલ્લાઓ પરિગાહો વેરમણ ખેતવથનું યથા પરિણામ હીણ સુવર્ણનું યથા પરિણામ ધન ધાન્યનું યથા પરિણામ દુપદ ચૌપદનું યથા પરિણામ કુવીરનું યથા પરિણામ એ યથી પરિણામ કીધું છે. તે ઉપરાંત પોતાનો પરિગ્રહ કરી રાખવાના પચકાણ જ્યાં જીવાએ એક વિહમ તિવિહમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા પાંચમા થુલ પરિગ્રહ વેરમણ પરિણામ વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચ અયરા જાણિયા ન સમાયરા તંજાતે આલવું ખેતવથુ પ્રમાણે કમણે હીણ સુવર્ણ પ્રમાણે કમણે ધન ધાન્ય પ્રમાણે કમણે દુપદ ચૌપદ પ્રમાણે કમણે કુવીય પ્રમાણે કમણે એવા પાંચમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The fifth vow is the vow of refraining from surplus material belongings. I refrain from open land, like a field or a farm, an enclosed space, like a house or a shop, and live within the limits that I have set. For silver, for gold, whatever limits I have set for money, for food, whatever limits I've set for owning animals, whatever limit is set for household materials, and live within the such limits, being forbidden to accumulate wealth over and above those, either myself or through somebody else, through mind, speech, or body. If I have crossed the limits of land or spaces, crossed the limits of gold or silver, crossed the limits of cash or other wealth, crossed the limits of owning animals, or crossed the limits of household materials, then tasmichami dukkanam.
છઠ્ઠું દિશી વ્રત ઉઠ્ઠું દિશીનું યથા પરિણામ અહો દિશીનું યથા પરિણામ તિર્ય દિશીનું યથા પરિમાણ એ યથા પરિણામ કીધું છે. તે ઉપરાંત સ ઈચ્છાએ કાયાએ જઈને પાંચ આશ્રવ સેવાના પચકાણ જાઉં જીવાએ દુહિમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કરવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા છઠ્ઠા દિશી વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચાયરા જાણ્યા ન સમયરા તંજાતે આલવું ઉઠ્ઠું દિશી પ્રમાણે કમણે અહો દિશી પ્રમાણે કમણે તિર્ય દિશી પ્રમાણે કમણે ખેતવઠુ રહી અંતરાય એવા છઠ્ઠા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
So the next vow is the vow to set your limits within all six directions. So remaining within the limits of the directions you have set, these are upward directions, downward directions, east, west, north, and south. Not to commit the evil acts of violence, lies, stealing, sensuality, and greed. You are forbidden by yourself or doing it to somebody else through mind, speech, and body, not to cross these limits of the six directions. If you have crossed the limit of the upward direction, the lower direction, north, east, south, or west, and have proceeded to cross over these in spite knowing that your limit is crossed, then today any such act tasmichami dukkanam.
સાતમું વ્રત ઉપભોગ ભોગ પરિભોગ વિહી પચખામણાએ पहले बोले उलणिया विहाय, बीजे बोले दंतण विही, त्रीजे फल विही, चौथे अभगण विही, पांचमे उवटण विही, छठे मज्जण विही, सातमे वत्थ विही, आठमे विलेवण विही, नवमे पुफ विही, 10मे आभरण विही, 11मे धूप विही, 12मे पेज विही, 13मे पखण विही, 14मे ओदण विही, 15मे सुप विही, 16मे विगय विही, 17मे साग विहीम, 18मे माहुरे विहीम, 19मे जेमण विहीम, 20मे पाणीय विहीम, 21मे मुहवास विहीम, 22मे वाहन विही, 23मे उवाहण विही, 24मे सयण विही, 25मे સચિત વિહિમ, 26મે દવ વિહિમ ઇત્યાદિકનું યથા પરિણામ કીધું છે. તે ઉપરાંત ઉપભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચખાણ ચાવ જીવાએ એક વિહમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા સાતમા ઉપભોગ પરિભોગ દુવિહમ પન્નતે તંચા ભોયણાઉએ કમયુએ ભોયણાઉએ સમળો વાસેણમ પંચાયરા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા તે આલવું સચ્ચિતાહારે સચ્ચિત પડિબદ્ધાહારે अपलोहि सही पखणाये, दुपलो सही पखणाये, तुच्छो सही पखणाये, कम ओणम समणो वासणम पन्न रस कम्मा दाणायम न जाणिया न समायरा तंजा ते आवलो इगाल कमे वण कमे साड़ी कमे भाड़ी कमे फोड़ी कमे दंत वाणी जय केस वाणी जय रस वाणी जय लख वाणी जय विस्स वाणी जय जंत पिलण कमे निर्लक्षण कमे दग विगय दावणियाए सरदह तलाग परिशोषणियाए असई जण પોષણિયા એવા સાતમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી ભોજનના 5 અતિચાર અને 15 કર્માદાન સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The seventh vow refers to articles that you can use once, like food and water, or putting restrictions on things that you can use several times, like jewelry, clothes, and other such things. You take a vow to restrict or fix the number of cloths that you use to wipe your body, things like towels. Use a limited number of cosmetic and mouth fresheners. Restrict the consumption of fruits. Restrict the use of oils and lotions. Restrict the use of other items of cosmetics and beautification. Limit the amount of bathing water, limit the amount of clothes, the use of cosmetics, the use of flowers, the type and number of ornaments or jewelry, incense material, consumption of beverages like tea and coffee, the consumption of sweets, the number and type of food grains, the type of pulses, restrict the amount of the 5 items of nutrient, ghee, oil, jaggery, milk, and yogurt. Limit the use of green vegetables. Limit the use of sweet fruits. Restrict the number of items in your daily diet. Consume a limited amount of water. To consume limited quantities of mouth fresheners. Limit the number of cars that you have. The amount of shoes and footwear. The number of beds and mattresses. To limit the use of animal things, animate things, things like fruits that have sweets, seeds, water that is not boiled, and limit the use of other such objects. I should not do this by myself or ask others through mind, speech, and body. If I have consumed things that are still living, if I have used something that is non-living, but which is stuck to something that is living, if I have consumed something that is partially cooked, if I have consumed something that has been cooked in a cruel way, if I have consumed something in which there is less to eat and more to discard, like sugarcane or custard apple, and then related to my trade or my business, there are 15 trades that are sinful. These are trades where furnaces are used, trades where you cut trees from the forest, trades where you use fermented goods like alcohol, trades where you realize money by rent of animals, carts, houses, etc. Trades where you dig the earth or construct wells, trades in animal products like ivory, bones, and horns, trades in fur, trades in meat, honey, butter, fat, or alcohol, trades in sealing wax, trades in poisonous and toxic substances, trades where you manufacture things by crushing, like sugar or oil, or where you torture animals by piercing their limbs, or you set fire to forests, fields, and other land, or you empty lakes or wells or ponds, trades which involve carnivorous animals, slaves, wicked people, and you support them to earn your livelihood. If today you have done any of these things, then tasmichami dukadam.
આઠમું વ્રત અનર્થ દંડનું વેર્મણમ ચોવીએ અણથા દંડે પન્નતે તંજા અવઝાણા ચડીએ પમાયાચર્યમ હિંસપયાણમ પાવકમો વસેમ. એવા આઠમા અનર્થ દંડ સેવાના પચખાન જાવ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા. એવા આઠમા અનર્થ દંડ વેર્મણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા ત્યાલવું કંદ પે કુકઈ મોહરીએ સંજુતા હિરણે ગણે ઉવ ભોગ પરિભોગ અયરતે. એવા આઠમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The eighth vow is the vow to refrain from unnecessary violence which penalizes your soul. These are evil concentrations, otherwise known as Artha Dhyan and Rodra Dhyan, where you are focused on thoughts about yourself or about hurting others, where you have reluctance towards righteous deeds, where you possess weapons that are deadly or evil, where you preach things that are wrong and sinful. In these, if you speak words which will increase passion, if you perform gestures that are bad, if you carelessly speak things that are meaningless, if you collect weapons that are deadly, and if you have excess attachment to goods and belongings, if today you have done any of these, then tasmichami dukadam.
નવમું સામાયિક વ્રત સાવજ જોગનું વેર્મણમ જાવ નિયમ પૂછવા સામે દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા. એવી મારી તમારી સદુણા પરુ પ્રમાણે કરી સામાયિકનો અવસર આવે અને સામાયિક કરીએ તે વારે સ્પર્શનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હોજો. એવા નવમા સામાયિક વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા ત્યાલવું મણ દુપડિયાણે વય દુપડિયાણે કાય દુપડિયાણે સામાયસ અકરણાય સામાયસ અમટિયસ કરણાય. એવા નવમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The ninth vow is the vow to remain in Samaik, which is what you're doing now. Whilst in Samaik, in equanimity, I refrain from sinful acts and remain in the limits and boundaries that I have said, either myself or through others. I will not, through my mind, speech, or body, employ my mind in a bad way. I will not use foul language. I will not do acts that are foul. I will not do samaik carelessly or negligently. I will not terminate samaik before its actual completion. If today I have done any of these, then tasmichami dukadam.
દસમું દેશાવગાસિક વ્રત દિન પ્રત્યે પ્રભાત થકી પ્રારંભીને પૂર્વાધિક 6 દિશી જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકળી રાખી છે. તે ઉપરાંત સ ઈચ્છાએ કાયા જઈને 5 આશ્રમ સેવાના પચખાણ જાવ અહોરંતમ દુવ્યમ તિવ્યણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા. જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકળી રાખી છે તેમાં હે દ્રવ્યાધિકની જે મર્યાદા કીધી છે તે ઉપરાંત ઉપભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચખાણ જાવ અહોરંતમ એકવિહમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા. એવા દસમા વિદેશાવકીસ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા તે આલવું અણમણ ભોગે પેસવણ ભોગે સદાણું વાયે રૂવાણું વાયે બૈયા પોગલ પખવે. એવા દસમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The next vow, the 10th vow, is the vow for 1 day and 1 night to set a limit in the 6 directions. Having set a limit, if you have called for something which exists outside that limit, if you have called or sent for somebody or something outside that limit through somebody else, if you have summoned somebody by calling them and that person is outside your limit, if you have tried to convey to somebody something that is outside the limit by gestures, or if you have called somebody from outside by throwing a pebble or any such thing, if today you have done any of these, then tasmit chami dukkadam.
11મું પરિપૂર્ણ પૌષધ વ્રત અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમ સાયમના પચખાણ અભમના પચખાણ મની સોવનના પચખાણ માલા વગનના વિલેવણના પચખાણ સત્ત મુસ્લાધિક સાવચ જોગના પચખાણ જાવ અહોરંતમ પજુવા સામી દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કરવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવી મારી તમારી સદુણા પરુપ્રમણાએ કરી પૌષધનો અવસર આવે તે પૌષધ કરું તે વારે સ્પર્શનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હોજો એવા 11માં પરિપૂર્ણ પૌષધ વ્રતના પંચ અયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજાતે આલવું અપડી લહી દુપડી લહી સીજા સંથા રહી અપમંજમ દુપમંજમ સીજા સંથા રહી અપડી લહી દુપડી લહી ઉચ્ચાર પાસવણ ભૂમિ અપમંજન દુપમંજમ ઉચ્ચાર પાસવણ ભૂમિ પોસહસ સમમ અણુ અણુપાલયણા એવા 11માં વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The 11th vow says for 1 day and 1 night to nourish the soul by religion and doing the right thing, you take the vow of Poshad. Poshad means to live like a sadhu for 1 day. During the vow, you will abandon food, water, dry fruits, and anything else that is eatable. You will give up sensuality. You will give up jewelry and gold. You will give up flowers, garlands, and cosmetics. You will give up other things like instruments and weapons. If in abandoning all of these for 1 day and 1 night, you have made your sleeping place or bed carelessly without looking for living beings or not looking properly, you have not swept the place where you are going to live, or you've swept it carelessly, you have not disposed of waste in a proper place or disposed of it carelessly, you have not swept a place properly or have swept it carelessly, you have not followed this Poshad Vrat in a proper manner. If today you have done any of these, then tasmit chami dukkadam.
12મું અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રત સમણે નિગંથે ભાસુવેણમ એસજણમ પાણમ ખાયમ સાયમમ વત્થ પડિગહ કંબલ પાય પુચ્છેણમ પાઢિયારુ પીઠ ફલગ સિજા સંથાયણમ ઓસહ ભેજેણમ પડીલા ભેમાણે વિહરીએ સમે એવી મારી તમારી સદુણા પરુપ્રમણાએ કરી સુપાત્ર સાધુ સાધ્વીજીની જોગવાઈ મળે અને નિર્દોષ આહાર પાણી વહોરાવું તે વારે સ્પર્શનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હોજો એવા 12મા અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજાતે અલવું સચિત નિખલવણે સચિત પહેણોયાએ કાલાઈ કમે પરોવયસે મચ્છરિયાએ એવા 12મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તો તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The 12th vow is a vow for Atithi Samvibhag. Atithi means somebody who comes at an uncertain time and an uncertain date who is worthy, like a sadhu. The 12th vow is the virtue of sharing food and other provisions with sadhus or others that are worthy. These might be religious sadhus who have renounced everything and need cooked food that is without life, water that is without life, sweetmeats, mouth fresheners, simple white cloths, wooden pots and utensils, blankets, or woolen brushes. Such things which can be taken back after giving, like beds or benches or a plank or somewhere to spread the mattress or the mattress itself, medicine, You should give these devoutly and cherish the opportunity to do so. When such circumstances arise for giving food and water to deserving sadhus or sadhvis, then your giving should be pure. You should not mix things that are living and not living when you give. You should not cover something that is non-living with something that is living whilst you're giving. You should not give something which you know is spoiled or stale. You should not ask others to give in spite of being able to give yourself. Once you have given, you should not be proud that you have donated items. If today you have done any of these things, then tasmichami dukram.
અઢાર પ્રકારના પાપસ્થાનક સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તો હલવું છું. પહેલે બોલે પ્રાણાતિપાત, બીજે મૃષાવાત, ત્રીજે અદ્દાતા દાન, ચોથે મૈથુન, પાંચમે પરિગ્રહ, છઠ્ઠે ક્રોધ, સાતમે માન, આઠમે માયા, નવમે લોભ, 10મેं રાગ, 11મેं દ્વેષ, 12મેं કલહ, 13મેं અપ્યાખ્યાન, 14મેं પશુન્ય, 15મેं પરપરિવાદ, 16મેં રઈ અરઈ, 17મેં માયા મોસો, 18મેં મિચ્છા દસણમ સલમ. એવા 18 પ્રકારના પાપસ્થાનક મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવરાવ્યા હોય અને સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદન કર્યું હોય તો અનંતા સિદ્ધ કેવલી પ્રભુની સાક્ષીએ તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
So the 18 acts that are sinful. Number 1, violence towards life. Number 2, to lie, to steal, to be unchaste, to have attachments to your possessions, anger, pride, deceit, greed, attachments, hatred, to quarrel, to falsely accuse somebody, to gossip, to criticize, to backbite, to be happy in acts that are sinful and unhappy in acts that are religious, to lie maliciously, to trust a God that is false, a guru that is false, or a religion that is false. If today you have done any of these 18 sinful acts, then tasmichami dukram.
25 પ્રકારના મિથ્યાત્વ સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું. પહેલે બોલે અભિગ્રહિક મિથ્યાત્વ, બીજે અનાભિક મિથ્યાત્વ, ત્રીજે અભિનિવેશક મિથ્યાત્વ, ચોથે સાંશયિક મિથ્યાત્વ, પાંચમે અણાભોગ મિથ્યાત્વ, છઠ્ઠે લૌકિક મિથ્યાત્વ, સાતમે લોકોત્તર મિથ્યાત્વ, આઠમે કૃપાવચન મિથ્યાત્વ, નવમે જીવને અજીવ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 10મેં અજીવને જીવ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 11મેં સાધુને કુસાધુ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 12મેં કુસાધુને સાધુ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 13મેં 8 કર્મથી મુકાણા તેને નથી મુકાણા શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 14મેં 8 કર્મથી નથી મુકાણા તેને મુકાણા શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 15મેં ધર્મને અધર્મ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 16મેં અધર્મને ધર્મ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 17મેં જીન માર્ગને અન્ય માર્ગ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 18મેં અન્ય માર્ગને જીન માર્ગ શ્રદ્ધે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 19મેં જીન માર્ગથી ઓછું પ્રવૃત્તે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 20મેં જીન માર્ગથી અધિક પ્રવૃત્તે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 21મેં જીન માર્ગથી વિપરીત પ્રવૃત્તે તે મિથ્યાત્વ, 22મેં અવિનય મિથ્યાત્વ, 23મેં અકિરિયા મિથ્યાત્વ, 24મેં અજ્ઞાન મિથ્યાત્વ, 25મેં અશાતના મિથ્યાત્વ. એ 25 પ્રકારનું મિથ્યાત્વ મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવ્યું હોય, સેવરાવ્યું હોય, સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદન કર્યું હોય તો અનંતા શ્રી કેવલી ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષીએ તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The 25 types of belief that are wrong. Firstly, to support what is wrong without discriminating whether it is right or wrong. To believe in all gods and all gurus, whether they're good or bad. To insist on having a personal opinion even though you know that it is wrong. To have a suspicious nature towards the right religion. To want to live in absolute ignorance. To believe in gurus that are in contradiction to the true religion, and to celebrate their holy occasions. To worship the Tirthankars with selfish motives. To agree to the opinions of hypocrites. To consider the living as non-living, and to consider something that is non-living as living. to consider somebody who is a sadhu as not a sadhu, and to consider somebody who is not a sadhu as a sadhu. To consider somebody who is liberated from karma as not liberated, or to consider somebody that is not liberated as liberated from the karma. To consider something that is holy as not holy, and to consider something that is not holy as holy. To consider the path of Jainism as the same as other paths, and to consider other paths as the path of Jainism. To understate the facts of Jainism, to overstate the facts of Jainism, to state facts that are contrary to the facts of Jainism. To respect your gurus, elders, sadhus, and others. To have a disbelief in religious practices. To glorify ignorance. To behave badly with gurus, your elders, sadhus, and others. If out of these 25 wrong beliefs I have committed any of them today, or have got them committed by somebody else, or consented to those committing them, either through mind, speech, or body, then tasmichami dukkadam. That is the end of Pratikraman. So now, for you to reflect on these vrats, we shall do a short meditation of 4 logas. So please sit straight with your spine straight. Put your hands in your lap, close your eyes gently, and we'll recite the logas.
नमो अरिहंताणं नमो शेताणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो वैक्षायणं नमो लोये सत्व साणुतिकुतो अयणं पयणं वन्दामि नमः स्वामी सक्कारेमि समाणिमि कल्याणं मङ्गलं देव्यं चैव्यं पुष्वासामि इच्छामि परिकमणिर्या वीर्या कमणे पांकमणे बियकमणे हर्यकमणे ओसावतीर्ण पळंग दागमटी मकड़ा संताना संकमणे जेमे जीव्या वीरया एकिंद्या बेंद्या तेरिंद्या चोरिंद्या पचिंद्या अभिया वत्या लेस्या संगाय संकट्या पर्यावीर्या केलाम्या उदव्या ठाणा उठाणा संकाम्या जीव्या ववर्या तस्सम इच्छामि दुक्कडं तस्सौत्रीकरणं पायचित्करणं विसोहीकरणं विस्लीकरणं पावणं कमाणं निगायन ठाई ठामी कावसग अनंत उसस्यणं निसस्यणं फास्येण क्षेणं जंबायणं गुडियणं वायनी सगणं बम्मलिये पितमुचाय सुमें संचालय सुमे खेल संचालय सुमे दिचे संचालय एवं मय अगारे उजुमे कावसगो चावर्यंताणं भगवंताणं न करेमी ताव काणं ठाणं मोणं जाणं अप्पाणं मुसिरामी 4 लोगसनो कावसक बदा थारी जाजो लोगस सौजय करे तमति थैरे छीणे एरियंते कितेसी 24 अंपी केवली उसब मजंच वंदे संभवम अभिनंदनच सुमैंच पमप सुपासंच जिणंच चंदप वंदे सुव्यंच पवतंत सियल सिंजंच वासुपूजंच विमल म्हणंत तमं संतिच वंदामि कुंतुवरंच मल्ली वंदामि रिठनेमि पासंत वर्तमानं च एवमय अभिथुआ विहुरेमला पैण जर्मणा 24 अंपी जिणवरा तिथैर मे पश्यन्तु किते वंदे मया जे लोकस उत्तमासितारुको बोहिलापम समाईवर मुत्तम दिंतु चंदेसु निमलयरा आईचे सोयम पया सैरा सागरवर गंभीरा सिद्धा सिद्धि मम दिसंतु लोकसौचे करे तमति थैरे चीणे हरियंते कितेसी 24 अंपी केवली उसवम मजंच वंदे संपवम अभिनंदनच सुमैंच पमप सुप्पासंच जिणंच चंदप वंदे सुवेंच पुफ्तंत सियल सिंजंच वासुपूज्यंच विमल म्हणंत तमं संतिच वंदामि कुंतु वरंच मल्ली वंदामि रिठनेमि पासंत वर्तमानं च एवं मया भिथुआ विहुरेमला पैण जर्मणा 24 अंपी जिणवरा तिथयरा मे पश्यन्तु कितीय वंदे मया जे लोकस उत्तमासितारुक बोहिलापम समाहि वर्मुत्तम दिंतु चंदेसु निमलयरा आयचे सोयं पयासयरा सागर वर गंभीरा सिद्धा सिद्धि मम दसंतु लोकसौ जय करे तमति थैरी छेणे अरियंते कितेसी 24 अंपी केवली उसब मजियंच वंदे संभव मभिनंदनच सुमैंच पौमप सुप्पासंच चिडंच चंदप वंदे सुव्यंच पुफ्तंत सियल सिंजंच वासुपूजंच विमल म्हणंत तमं संतिच वंदामि कुंतुवरंच मल्ली वंदामि रिठनेमि पासंत वर्तमानं च एवमय अभिथुआ विहुरेमला पैण जर्मणा 24 अंपी जिणवरा तिथयरा मे पश्यन्तु कितीय वंदे मया चे लोकस उत्तमासितारुक बोहिलापम समाईवर मुत्तम दिंतु चंदेसु निमलयरा आयचे सोयं पयसैरा सागरवर गंभीरा सिद्धा सिद्धि मम दिसंतु चौथो लोग सोचे करे तमति थैरे चीणे हरियंते कितेसी 24 अंपी केवली उसब मजंच वंदे संभवम अभिनंदनच सुमैंच पौमप सुप्पासंच चिणंच चंदप वंदे सुयंच पवतंत सियल सिंजंच वासुपूजंच विमल म्हणंत तमं संतिच वंदामि कुंतुवरंच मल्ली वंदामि रिठनेमि पासंत वर्तमानं च एवमय अभिथुआ विहुरेमला पैण जर्मणा 24 अंपी जिणवरा तिथैरा मे पश्यन्तु कितीय वंदे मय्या चेलोकस उत्तमासितारुकबोइलापं समायि वर्मुत्तम दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलयरा ऐचेषु अयं पयासेरा सागर वर गंभीरा સિતા સિદ્ધિ મમ દિસંતુ 4 લોકનો કવસ કર્યો હતો તે પૂરો થતા પડાવું છે તેમાં કાનો માત્ર મીંડું પદ અક્ષર ગાતા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત ભણાણું હોય આપણે સંભળાણું હોય કે ઉચ્ચારણ ઓછું થયા હોય તો અનંતાશ્રી કેવલી ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષીએ તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયરિણામ નમો ઉવજાયણમ નમો લોય સપ્પ સાવણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયરિણામ નમો ઉવજાયણમ નમો લોય સવ્વ સાવણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો ઉવજાયણમ નમો લોય સપ્પ સાવણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ.
More Arihantanam. So the last avashak, now that we've done Pratikraman, is that for tomorrow you should take a pachkan, tyag, restriction. So for tomorrow in your minds, find something that you can't live without and take a vow not to have it so that you strengthen your mind. Make sure it's something that you are going to have, otherwise there's no point in it.
આપ સૌની ધારણા પ્રમાણે ચોયમ પે આહારમ પચખામી અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમ સાયમમ અન્નથા પોગેણમ સહસા ગારણમ મહતના ગારણમ સવ સમાહિ વર્તિ આગરણમ અપાણમ વસિરામી વસિરામી.
Now that is the end of Pratikraman. We started with Samaik, so we shall now end with stopping that Samaik.
દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવજોગ સેવાના પચખાન ક્ષેત્ર થકી આખા લોક પ્રમાણે કાળ થકી 2 ઘડીની સામાયિક કરી હતી તે પૂરી થતા પડાવ જેવા 9મા સામાયિક પ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યા ન સમાયરા તંજા મહંતુપ્રિયાએ વૈદુપ્રિયાએ કાયદુપ્રિયાએ સામાયસ અકરણાએ સામાયસ અણવટીયસ કરણાએ તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયમ સમમ ન કાયમ ન ફાસ્યમ ન પાલ્યમ ન તીર્યમ ન કીટિયમ ન સોયમ ન આરાયમ આણાય અણુપાલય ન ભવઈ તસ્સ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિકમાં 10 મનના 10 વચનના 12 કાયાના 32 દોષમાંથી કોઈ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિકમાં આહાર સંજ્ઞા ભય સંજ્ઞા મૈથુન સંજ્ઞા પરિગ્રહ સંજ્ઞામાંથી કોઈ સંજ્ઞાનું સેવન કર્યું હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિકમાં પુરુષ કથા ભક્ત કથા દેશ કથા રાજકથા કોઈ કથાનું સેવન કર્યું હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિકમાં અતિક્રમ વ્યતિક્રમ અતિચાર અનાચાર જાણતા અજાણતા મન વચે કાયાએ કરી કોઈ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિક વ્રત વિધેય લીધું વિધેય પાડ્યું વિધેય કરતા અવિધેય થયું હોય તો તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. સામાયિકમાં કાનો માત્ર મીંડું પદ અક્ષર ગાથા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત ભણાણું ગણાણું હોય તો અનંતાશ્રી કેવલી ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષીએ તસ્સમિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. હવે 3 નમસ્તરણ બોલશો. ડાબું ગોઠણ આપણે એવું છે. પહેલું નમસ્તરણ શ્રી સત્ય ભગવાનને કરીએ છીએ. નમસ્તણં અરિયંતાણં ભગવંતાણં આયકરણમ તિથયાણમ સહસબુતાણમ પુરીસોત્તમાણમ પુરીસિયાણમ પુરીશ્વર પુનર્યાણમ પુરીસવાર ગંધતિયાણમ લોગોત્તમાણમ લોકનાહાણમ લોકહિયાણમ લોકપૈવાણમ લોકપચોયકાણમ અભયદયાણ ચક્ષુદયાણ મગદયાણ શરણદયાણ જીવદયાણ બોહિદયાણ ધમ્મદયાણમ ધમ્મદેશ્યાણમ ધમ્મનાયગાણમ ધમ્મવરચાવરંત ચક્કવિટણમ દિવોતાણમ સરંગઈ પૈઠા આપણી હૈ વરે નાણ દસણ ધરાણમ વિયટ છૌમાણમ જિન્નાણમ જાણ્યાણમ તિન્નાણમ તાર્યાણમ બુદ્ધાણમ બોયાણમ મુત્તાણમ મોયકાણમ સવનુણમ સવદરિશિરમ શિવ મયલમરયમણુંત મખૈ મહાબામ મપુણામંતી સિદ્ધિ કઈ નામ તે ઠાણ સંપતાણમ નમો જીણાણમ. બીજું નમસ્તણં શ્રી અરિયંત ભગવાને નમસ્તણં અરિયંતાણમ ભગવંતાણમ આયગરણમ તિથયાણમ સહસબુદ્ધાણમ પુરીસોત્તમાણમ પુરીસસિયાણમ પુરીશ્વર પુનર્યાણમ પુરીશ્વર ગંધથયાણમ લોગોત્તમાણમ લોકનાહાણમ લોકહિયાણમ લોકપૈવાણમ લોકપચોયકાણમ અપૈદયાણમ ચક્ષુદયાણ મગદયાણ શરણદયાણ જીવદયાણ બોહિદયાણમ ધમ્મદયાણમ ધમ્મદેશ્યાણમ ધમ્મનાયગાણમ ધમ્મવર ચાઉરંત ચક્ક વિટણમ દીવો તાણમ સરંગઈ પૈઠા આપણી હૈ વર નાણ દસણ ધરાણ વિયટ છૌમાણમ જીનાણમ જાણ્યાણ તિન્નાણમ તાર્યાણમ બુત્તાણમ બોયાણમ મુત્તાણમ મોયકાણમ સવનુણમ સવદરિશિરમ શિવ મયલમરુઈ મણંત મખૈ મા બાપ મપુણામંતી સિદ્ધિ કઈ નામ તે ઠાણ સંપાવું નમો જીનાણમ. ત્રીજું નમસ્કાર મારા તમારા ધર્મગુરુ ધર્માચાર્ય ધર્મોપદેશક સમ્યકત રૂપી બૌદ્ધિક બીજના દાતા ચીન શાસનના શણગાર એવી અનેક શુભ ઉપમાય કરી બિરાજમાન સર્વ સાધુ સાધ્વીજી વિતરાગ દેવની આજ્ઞામાં જ્યાં જ્યાં વિચરતા હોય ત્યાં મારી સમયની વંદના હોજો. તિખુતો અયહેણં પયહેણં વંદામી નમન સ્વામી સકારેમી સમાણેમી કલાણં મંગલમ દેવ્યમ ચૈવ્યમ પુષ્વા સ્વામી. તિખુતો અયહેણં પયહેણં વંદામી નમન સ્વામી સકારેમી સમાણેમી કલાણં મંગલમ દેવ્યમ ચૈવ્યમ પુષ્વા સ્વામી. તિખુતો અયહેણં પયહેણં વંદામી નમન સ્વામી સકારેમી સમાણેમી કલાણં મંગલમ દેવ્યમ ચૈવ્યમ પુષ્વા સ્વામી. નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યામ નમો ઉવચ્છાયણમ નમો લોયે સફ સાવણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો ઉવચ્છાયણમ નમો લોયે સફ સાવણમ નમો અરિહંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો ઉવચ્છાયણમ નમો લોયે સફ સાવણમ. એસો પંચ નમોકારો સવ પાવપણાસણો મંગલાણમ ચ સવિસિમ પડમમ હવૈ મંગલમ. જય જિનેન્દ્ર.
That's the end of Pratikraman. Painless. So we will now, give me 2 minutes and we will now do a quick lecture, about 45 minutes, and then if there's questions, I'm happy to take questions before the bhavana starts next door. So today we shall talk about forgiveness. Tomorrow, after Samvatsari Pratikraman, Jains have a tradition of saying Michami Dukram, to ask for forgiveness, to say, may whatever I have done be fruitless. But for whose benefit are you doing that? When we are born, we come from somewhere into a body, and your mother gives birth to that body. That is your first attachment, because you forget who you are. You become ignorant of your soul and see this body as you. And as that time progresses, that increases to your family, that increases to the things that you own, the schools that you go to, the possessions that you have, and these all become mine. It becomes me. And because of that, you start building your identity. So if you look at, for example, in India, how many people put CA before their name? That is their identity, that they're a chartered accountant, or they're an engineer, or they, talk about their company. So these are attachments. When you have attachments, it's usually that somebody has said or done something that relates to your attachment. You've bought a car, it's a new car, and somebody says, oh, I don't like that car, it's not very good. I don't know why you bought it. That causes you pain. It hasn't done anything to you. It hasn't done anything to your car. But what it has done is that it has hurt your ego. And your ego is your association with this body. Because if you had no association with this body, then there would be no ego. We know that this body is only here for a short time. yet we are completely attached to it. And everything that attaches to this body is now our soft spot. Anybody says or does anything about it, you get hurt, or you get offended, or you get abused, or you feel you've been abused. So if today you do something for somebody, somebody is ill, and you do something for them, you call them, you go round, make sure you're okay. But the day you're ill and they don't do that, then what happens? I did this for him, and yet they couldn't find 2 minutes just to call me to see if I'm okay. We spend all of our time thinking about who we think we are, and anything that anybody does to that person that we believe we are, or to the things. If somebody says something about your kids, they're a bit naughty, they weren't dressed properly, they don't have Vinay Vivek, anything, it now hurts us personally. But it's not even against you, it's against somebody else. But they're our kids, my kids. Therefore, anything that happens to my kids is at me, directed at me. So this is what we live with all the time. Now, as soon as that happens, what happens with that? What do we do with this? What we do is we sit and think, who do they think they are? I hope something happens to them. So now we have hurt somebody. Remember, in Jainism, to hurt somebody, you do not have to physically do anything. You don't even have to verbally do anything. If you think about it, it is the same. And we're all cowards. None of us will physically go and do it. But we will think it, and in thinking it, we bind the same amount of karma. So this one incident has now become a long incident, multiple times, same thing. We keep thinking about it. We did this, they didn't do that. They said this, whatever. And then we also do it because we then start to indulge in self-pity. How can they say that to me? I'm such a nice person. I do so much work. It then becomes the cause of our anxiety, of our confidence, of our depression. These days we've learnt a lot of these words, which when I was young were never there. Whatever happened, you just carried on with life. Now, we can't say anything about anything. So when you think about all of those, how much of this is self-inflicted? How much of this is because of you? And I will tell you it's 100%. The reason it's 100% is because if that person said the same thing about somebody else's car, somebody else's kids, somebody else's possessions, it wouldn't affect you at all. Correct? So why is it affecting you? Because you're attached to it. This is mine. And what is mine? It is attached to this body. And what is this body? Something that's going to die. So your attachment is because of your ignorance. Because you do not identify as the energy, the soul that's in this body, then the only thing you have is this body. And if you're attached to this body is going to die and you're going to go somewhere else. But whilst you're here, by being attached to it and everything else that it has, what are you doing? You're binding that karma. Because you're thinking about these things, you're wishing ill on other people, you're feeling sorry for yourself. This is Artha Dhyan and Rodra Dhyan. And as a result, that karma is going to guarantee you the next life, and you can do that again. So your suffering is also yours, 100%. Your destiny is also yours, 100%. But in this, what you have done is taken something that if somebody had said it and you'd been in a different mood, you'd have said, what are you talking about? It's rubbish. But now that you've taken it and attached it to yourself, you're happy to do all of these things. If you think about this from another perspective, that when you decide that you want to say something to somebody, have you ever thought that when you say or do or see something, you do it through your senses. Your senses are very limited. Today I have glasses. I might not be able to see beyond the third row. So anybody at the back doing something, I can't see. So what I see is actually limited. And then it comes into my body. And my body has to interpret it. What is this that I'm seeing or hearing or whatever? What does that depend on? It depends on my knowledge and my experience. If you're speaking a language I don't understand, you can say anything to me, it doesn't matter. So I have to have knowledge and I have to have the experience of what you're saying. But the problem with people, human beings, is that we're very good at not only our own experience, we're very good at taking experience that we have acquired from others. When you read a book, you take that experience. This is how most religions work. They will tell you stories and that becomes your reality. That in this situation, this Bhagwan did this or this person did this, therefore this is what I need to do. We've taken somebody else's experience. So when you take something that is not 100%, like my sight, I see it, I interpret it, I then add my experience to it, and if my experience says anybody wearing orange I should be afraid of, then that becomes my belief. Now, nothing has happened in any of this, but just because I saw something and I believe something, now in that belief, whose thoughts are they? Whoever thoughts they are, we believe and we're attached to our thoughts and our beliefs. I know this is right, this is my belief. In the Pratikraman, how many times did it say that to say something even though you know it is wrong, to believe something even though you know it is wrong? Why? Because we believe those beliefs are ours. I am right, everybody else is wrong. So this becomes our belief. Once it becomes our belief, we have another problem, which is that our attention is not very good. You know, there might be things that are passing by the window, we miss them. There might be people that have come and gone, we miss them. Our attention is not that great. So what we do in what we receive is we make up the bits that are missing. That's called masala. Because we don't make them up normally, we add a bit of. And in that masala, we then do the same thing. We tell people, we sit and think about it, we feel sorry for ourselves. If I had done this, if this person's that, if he gets hit by a car, good luck because he's not a nice person. We've done all of those. All they've done, because nothing has happened, is bind karma. Now, when you bind that karma, again, that karma is karma that you're binding that is attached to your soul for this life and for the next life. What that karma does, and it's very important to understand this. It's gone off.
Is it powered up?
Oh. What that karma does is that it is the source of two things. When you are in life experiencing things, always remember what is in your hands. We call this purshat, your effort, and what is karma. Karma gives you the thoughts and the feelings. All the thoughts and the feelings that you get are nothing but karma. If they're good, it's because you've got good karma, and if they're bad, it's because you've got bad karma. The second thing is the situations, environments you face, again, are those karma. That's how they will come about. So if you're sitting there thinking about somebody and thinking, I wish something happens to them, well, something will happen to you, same thing. And then in that situation, what will you do? You'll think, oh, this has happened to me. Why did it happen to me? I'm such a good person. I don't know why these things are happening. And you bind more. And this cycle carries on. Now, if you want to break the cycle, you have to break that scenario. When you go and say Michami Dukram with bhav, with intention, not just because, I can tell you tomorrow WhatsApp will go mad. Everybody will send you 1,000 Michami Dukrams, but they're on WhatsApp. They're all your friends and your family. They're not your enemies. You have to say this to your enemies. You have to break the cycle for your own sake, so that you clear your mind, you draw a line. And the way to do this is to do it sincerely, not just sort of say it. Bow down and say it. Why? Because whatever they have done, remember one thing, it never affects you unless you let it inside. If they say it to 3 people, why won't it affect you when they say it to the other 2? So it's nothing to do with me. But it's the same thing. It's identical. If you let it affect you, then it not only gets into you, but it becomes the source of your ongoing thinking. That this person is like that. And it becomes what you then tell others. And then it becomes their belief because they say, oh, it happened to her, it'll happen to me. And this is the source. And how many times is this put in? No backbiting. These are all your adar prakarna pap. Right? 18 types of sin. Backbiting, gossiping, talking about others. All of these things are things that you do even if they're in here. So the idea is really simple for you to go to a person like this. Now, when you do that, there are 2 things that happen. If you think about this idea of what religion for a sadhu looks like, just imagine you go to an unknown place, knock on an unknown door, put your hands together and say, can I have food? What a way to break an ego. This is the same thing. When you bow down to somebody you do not like and say, Michami Dukram, you're breaking your ego. Breaking your ego means you're breaking that attachment which is causing you the pain. Remember, without attachment, rag and dvesh. Rag is attachment. Without attachment, there is no pain. Pain is only from attachment. So to break that attachment, you have to break the ego that causes that. This thing that I am superior, I am better, I am bigger, how can I bow in front of you? My grandmother used to say, think of it as exercise for your stomach. Every time you bow down, it's like doing a press up or whatever. You bow down, your stomach gets less. But you should do it. The second thing that you have to think about is, what are you saying? You're saying, may the fruits of my actions not happen. Right? Mari icha michami enati duk nathai dukaram. So what you're saying is that whatever I'm wishing, Mari Icha, I'm wishing bad on you, I'm wishing that something happens to you, because I'm not saying it. I probably will never say it. Out of that, may no harm come to you. So you're protecting the other person from your bad wishes. This is why it's important to do this. That what you're saying is that, even though I might have had these thoughts, had these feelings, whatever, nothing should happen to you. Why? Because you do not want that person to become a nimit for what you're doing. A catalyst, somebody who is the cause. You do not want to make them a cause. In this, if you start by thinking about this idea that we talked about a few days ago, that every karma you bind has 2 or 3 things. It has a type, it's me, it's always me. So every karma you bind has 2 characteristics. It is a type What kind of result is it going to give you? Your type of body or your knowledge or whatever. And then the duration that you suffer it. So when will it happen and for how long? Those two things is what happens. There is no third thing. There is no name on that karma. If there is no name, that means you've bound the karma. That person cannot do it to you. If somebody says something and you say, so what? That's your opinion. It finishes. If you say, who do you think you are? Do you know who I am? That's it, all your problems start. So, in there, you're the only person, and the karma is only yours, and you're the only one who's going to suffer. And that other person will not even be there when you suffer it, because they haven't done anything to you. They cannot. People always think that they have power, but you don't have power. If today you want to get if you wanted to come here today, it was dependent upon your car starting, you not having a puncture, there not being a traffic jam, so many factors that are not in your control. Your punya karma got you here, your good karma. The day you don't have that, all of those things will happen. So you have almost no control. The only control you have is your mind, speech, and body. What you think, what you say, and what you physically do. That is the only control you have. In this scenario, when you think about your kids, your family, your possessions, these are good karma. If you think you have control over them, just wait till your kids become teenagers. You have no control at all. So, in this scenario, who is the one that is causing all the pain and suffering? When you go to somebody and say, Michami Dukram, they have just instigated you to cause pain to yourself. They're a catalyst. They're just making you do the things to yourself that you are doing out of attachment and ego. If you didn't have attachment and ego, they could not do anything to you. When you, again, think about this idea of a Jain sadhu, in the situation they're in, no credit card, no mobile phone. There's no fear. There is no worry about where my next meal is coming from. There's no worry about where I'm going to stay tonight. There's no worry about what's going to happen. Is anybody going to come to my lectures? It doesn't matter. No attachment, no ego. If it doesn't matter, then you can't do anything to it. You can only do something to somebody if it matters to them. If you have a car and you don't care because it's got so many bangs and scrapes, another one doesn't make any difference. If it's brand new and you spend all day shining it, it matters a lot. Because it matters, it causes you pain, because that matter gives you greater attachment. So when tomorrow you are doing your Michami Dukrams, what makes them effective is that you have the same bhav. Because what does bhav do? When you attract karma towards you, we used the example a few days ago that it's a bit like putting salt on here. If I put salt, I can easily wipe it. If this is wet and I put salt, it's a bit more difficult. And if this has got honey and I put salt, it's almost impossible. That honey is your passion, your bhav, good or bad. Water is a soft version of this. If you have bhav when you do this, the same amount of bhav that you had when you were thinking and doing all these other things, you will bind enough good karma to offset the bad karma you have bound. You might not get rid of it, but you might offset it. That means that if you were going to have a big accident, it becomes a little scrape. You still have an accident, but it's not the big accident. So the idea is to go and do it with bhav, to go and do it so that you break your ego, and to do it not just to people you like and who you will go and hug and say, thank you, Chami Dukram, how are you, how's everybody? Do it to the people that are causing you the problems, because this is how you will get rid of your problems. And in this, what you will end up with, if you can do it properly, tomorrow what you will end up with is a much lighter feel in your body. Your mind will become very light because it's no longer holding these things because you've got rid of them. You've drawn a line, you've let them go. And you will find when that person says Michami Dukram to you, in your mind you will release everything because they've said sorry. That's still a bit of ego, but it's better that you've let it go. So in this, 3 big lessons to learn, and then I'll stop for questions. The first is whenever you feel pain, whenever you feel suffering, whenever you feel anxiety, ask yourself the same question. What is it that I'm attached to? What belief do I have? What attachment do I have? That means that I'm feeling pained because it is now, somebody has now affected it. It can be attachment to your kids, your house, your car, your beliefs about something. If you can recognize what it is and let it go, your pain will go. That is the way to do it because you have to release it inside you. You can't release it outside. The second thing is to remember that every time you do Artha Dhyan or Rodra Dhyan, you think about some scenario and say, if this happens, I'll do this, and this happens, hope this happens to them, and so on. Or you feel sorry for them. Why did this happen to me? And, why am I the one suffering? And all of these don't serve you because they're in your mind, but they bind karma. Every time that happens, say Michami Dukram to yourself and move on. If you don't get rid of them, without doing anything or going anywhere, you will bind several lives out of them. Because you'll keep binding karma and karma. You have to release them. And the third thing is that the people that are affecting you, they're not affecting you. What is affecting you is the belief you have about them. If you think about the group here, who here has no problems? Who here has no worries? Okay, who here knows somebody who has no problems or no worries? So, one person. So when these things happen with other people, we have no idea what they're going through. We have no idea whether they're suffering today or whether something has happened to them. And in our mind, all we're doing is worrying about ourselves. And in that, we look at everybody else and they're always the cause of all of our problems. If you go to those same people and say, Michami Dukram, what you're doing is recognizing that they have done nothing more than got you to inflict pain to yourself. And you're saying, I'm sorry if in that I have caused you any harm because I've done it to myself. As soon as you start doing that, you will start reducing the pain you cause. As long as you believe everybody does things to you, then it's everybody's fault, not yours. As soon as you accept, this is me and myself and I, and there's no third party, you will get beyond it. And the thing that happens with this, which is very, very important, is that you have to recognize, as I said, that there is in karma no name attached. There is no third party. Because what somebody says or does or behaves like, it is you interpreting that in some way or the other. Nothing is good and nothing is bad. If today I'm giving this short talk, some of you will say that was excellent and some of you will say that was rubbish. It's the same talk. How can it be both? It will be, because you put an interpretation. I didn't like this, he doesn't know what he's saying. If I sit there and say, how can he think that? I'm spending so much time doing this. That's my ego. And if I say I should do better so that he understands next time, that is the opposite, humility. So you must learn to give up this ego, because ultimately we all go. And the idea of this life is to make sure you go better than you came. Make progress. And the way to make progress is to lessen your karma. As soon as you lessen the karma, things stop happening to you. Your thoughts stop coming. Your emotions, your feelings, your bad luck, as we call it. It's not bad luck. It's just bad karma. As soon as you stop that, it changes. So to change it, you've got to get rid of the things that cause it. So we have 15 minutes. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, can I ask something? I know you said that you tell the Pratikraman only you have problem with somebody or you have said something, but it's not that. But if you've done some arguments with your friends when you're going out on holidays, on a trip or something, and they think, oh, she doesn't listen or she does it always or how she wants to say it and stuff. So still I have to tell them.
Yes. You see, if somebody, first of all, what somebody thinks and believes is very difficult for us to understand. The reason is we don't understand what they have been through, their experience, which gives them these thoughts. If every friend I have argues with me, then my belief is that every other friend I have will also argue with me. The thing that you have to do is clear your slate. Right? And what you also have to think about is this, that if you don't do it, then the next time you meet that person, what is the expectation? You should stand here, sit here, and then it'll work. Every time you meet that person, what is it that will happen? There is an expectation that this is going to carry on.
Yeah.
Draw a line.
Yeah.
And in drawing that line, and it's not me this time, I promise you. It is not me. It's finished.
It's a dancing.
That karma is finished. If you see, if you think about that scenario and that person, the thing that you also have to think about is that if you don't draw a line, then that expectation continues and that scenario continues. As soon as you draw a line, at least now there is a line. Next time they'll think, she said sorry, that's the end of the matter. And this is what you have to do, because otherwise it carries on in here. You might have stopped it, but it carries on. We still have time for questions.
તીખું તોનો પાઠ બોલીએ છીએ ત્યારે ઘણા છેલ્લે મથેણ કહે છે ઘણા નથી કહેતા બેન તો સો મથેણ વંદામી સમજ કહેવાય.
So, Mathen Vandami, there are two types of Vandana you can do. Mathen Vandami, એટલે મારા માથેથી વંદના કરું, so you're touching your head to the ground. Normally you do that with a sadhu, that when you meet them, 3 times and then you touch your head. So when you're doing that 3 times, we say Tikuto normally. And so people add the Mathen Vandami because that's what you say to them. Okay?
સાધુ ન હોય તો નહીં બોલવાનું.
ના. એટલે સાધુને વંદના કરતા હોય ને, then you say Mathen Vandami.
અને ભગવાનની મૂર્તિને પણ
હા, ભગવાનની મૂર્તિને એ સાધુ જ છે.
હા, અને એમ સામાયિક કે કાંઈ કરતા હોય તો નહીં કરતા.
Yeah. And thank you. It's said in presence of Bhagwan, Sadhu, when you're doing Vandana to them, you say Mathen Vandami, because that's how you greet them. If some of you might have seen that there is Samnijis here in Pinner. They're not proper sadhus because they are here. So to them, you say Vandami Namansami. Ke hu tamne namu chu, like that. But Matethi nati namta because they're not a sadhu yet.
No, my question is regarding the Pratikraman. College Pratikraman also, there is no nothing in English like detailed one. Is it the same or is
Is it the same?
Tomorrow's Pratikraman is going to be a proper.
It is the same as this, but what has happened is over time, you see, if you go back, and some of you are old enough, like me, to have been to Pathshala, and in Pathshala they make you recite this to memorize it. Because a lot of people could not read or write, they memorized this. Now, if you're memorizing it, what they want you to do is memorize the whole religion as far as possible. In our normal Pratikraman, you get Saman Sutra, sutras that relate to sadhus, you get things about the size of heavens and Kamana, and all these things are added for knowledge. But they're added in the Pratikraman because you memorize this. Right? That's why it takes 2 hours or whatever. What we did is the actual Pratikraman. It's the same sequence, but it's longer and there's a lot of repetition. And you see, what happens is, number of times you say Namo Tunu, a number of times you say Logos, there's a lot of repetition. We've taken out the repetition to make it finish in 48 minutes. And 48 minutes anybody can do. 2.5 hours is difficult. So, the other thing is that that Pratikraman is also done with standing up, sitting down. Again, what these are ways of doing vandana or addressing sadhus, tikhuto kariye, putting up your left leg, or these are ways of standing in front of a sadhu. So you do them whilst you're reciting these verses. But here, if you're just doing Pratikraman, they are not necessary to do them so many times. There was a question somewhere here.
This life we suffer because of our karma of last life.
Not necessarily. Last life plus this life. If you didn't bind any karma in this life, the karma from your last life will have run out and you would have got Keval Jnana. But what we do is we bind as well in this life. You bind karma every time you think something, say something, or do something. If you do it carelessly, without attention, without being aware because you're daydreaming, you bind karma more. If you do it with passion, and anger or pride, or you want to cheat somebody, or with lots of greed, you bind even more karma. So this karma keeps binding because what you're doing is giving it glue. This is glue. If you didn't have glue, then even though the karma comes in, it can't stick to you, it falls off. So the idea is to get rid of these things. So we call most of them dvesh, rag and dvesh. Rag is your attachment that causes the karma to come, and dvesh is what sticks it to you.
So whatever karma we do this life, also we get the result this life.
This life, and some of it is also the next life. Because we have them at the end of this life, it means we have to take a next life. So when we say somebody has reached Keval Jnana, it means that they have got rid of all the karma in this life, except they still have a body. When they get rid of the body, they go to moksha, because there's nothing to give them another life. Karma is a physical particle. Okay, it's a very small particle, but it's physical. Because it's physical, we need a physical body for this Atma to experience it. So when you think about why am I here, the answer is simple. You're here to experience the karma you have bound. And everything is about that karma. Your family, your body, your looks, the experience you have, it's all what you've bound. That's why some people are born as kings and some people are born in poverty. What determines that birth? What determines if you have a good body or a bad body? What determines whether your body gets disease? All of these things have come because of the karma you have. In that karma, you can improve it. So even if you have a bad body, if from day one you spend a lot of time looking after it, you exercise, you eat well, you sleep properly, it still becomes a good body because you're putting effort. So effort is called purshat. Effort is your discipline, what you have control over. Like everything, your effort will give you results. Your karma will give you the circumstance, your effort will give you the results. If you study hard, at some point you will get better grades. If you spend a lot of time learning something, at some point you will understand it. Initially, when you start learning, it's very difficult. Why? It's because the karma is stopping it. If you keep your effort going, at some point your effort will become stronger than your karma. You will then learn. So all of this depends upon effort, and effort depends upon discipline. Not feeling lazy, not wanting to sleep until 11 o'clock in the morning, not, doing these things, or I'll do them tomorrow. It's effort. If today you want to learn yoga, get up every morning and do it for an hour and you'll learn yoga very easily. If you do it once a week, once a month, it won't happen. Discipline. So, again, I keep talking about sadhus for one reason, because that is the easiest way to get rid of your karma. If you think about the first thing that happens in their life, it's discipline. Wake up at 4 o'clock, do meditation, do this, do this. It's absolutely the same every day, 7 days a week. There's no breaks, no day offs, no cinema, no eating. It's discipline. If you can build discipline, you will achieve everything in your life.
Just when you say Michhami Dukra last year, you obviously say within the Jain community who also understand that word. But what is the suggested practice people who don't follow Jainism?
I say it to them as well, or if I send it to them or say it, I also translate the English.
Yeah, sequel, forgiveness.
May there be no fruits to my actions, or may my actions be fruitless. If I have harmed you in any way, or if I've caused you any pain or suffering, may my actions be fruitless. And it is not just Jainism. Other religions, I believe the Jewish religion has something very similar. Others have something very similar. You see, when you think about all of these religions, what is the difference between them? The main difference. The main difference is that the place where they happened are different. So if you look at the scenario where Christianity was born, or Islam is born, or Judaism is born, and then you look at where Jainism or Buddhism, they're in different places, and the different places mean that in that context, this was the best way in which, this could be taught to people. So if you think about Jainism and Buddhism in a very similar place, very similar religions. Similarly, Judaism and Christianity, similar place, similar religions. Because people in that place, if you teach them something that is not relevant to them, why would it carry on? If 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I sat and talked to you about mobile phones and Facebook and Twitter, you think this guy has gone mad, what's the point? So it has to be relevant. And today, there are people who will do Pratikraman on Zoom. It's today's time, it's relevant. So you have to make it relevant, and that means that all of these religions teach similar things, not the same, similar things, but in a way that means that it's relevant to the people that they're teaching it to. We can still take a few questions.
What efforts can we make to reduce our karmas?
The biggest effort to reduce your karma is awareness, mindfulness. If every time you start daydreaming, you're mindful enough to say, I'm daydreaming, stop. If every time you're thinking of something, you say, this is not right, stop. If you can bring that awareness, you will stop yourself doing this. Remember, the karmas are yours and you're binding them. So you need to be, why do you not do that? Because if you are daydreaming and you get a thought about something, you'll carry on putting masala in that thought and it carries on, and then that sequence means that you bind a lot of karmas. Right? So this is the first thing. The second thing is, remember what I said, that all people have problems, issues, things that they're trying to handle. So there is very little value in you talking to people about things that are not relevant. This is called gossip or backbiting or whatever, because there is no value to it to you. If you phone somebody and say, oh, this person said this to me and I don't think, whatever, what's the value to that person? It's karma for you. What's the value to them? So this actually, again, is a way that we bind a lot of karma. And the third thing, and which is again covered in that Pratikraman, is meaningless violence. We do things, carelessly, we say things carelessly, if today I'm walking from here to the car park and I walk without even looking around, and there's lots of ants and things and I crush them all, killing life is the biggest violence. I've bound big karma because I'm careless. So if you get rid of carelessness, if you build mindfulness, and if you stop this idea of, saying things that have no value to you from a karma perspective, you will get rid of a lot of karma. It's not easy.
Yeah, because sometimes in the society you want to be with the friends, you want to be with everyone, so you have to do these things, knowingly or unknowingly.
But, and I don't disagree with that, but I will give you a thought about this idea of people, family, friends, and whatever. At the end of this life, your next life is determined by karma. That karma is bound by everything you say, do, and think. It is impossible for two people to bind exactly the same karma, because it is impossible for two people to say, think, and do the same things for their whole life. That means at the end of this life, you, your friends, and your family will go in different directions. And you all came from different directions. So your friends and family in this life. So if in this life, for this 100 years, you say, I'm going to bind the karma because of this, you're going to then pay the price for the next 2 lives. Think about that. That at the end of the day, they will not take any of your load. They will not reduce any of your load. But if you bind it now, for you to get rid of it, it's a bit like, exercising. When I sometimes sit on this bicycle for an hour and then somebody tells me this is the same as eating 1 packet of crisps. You know what pain actually is compared to that 5 minutes of pleasure of eating those crisps. It's the same thing.
True. So it's control of.
It is control of your mind. Everything is control of your mind. Because you cannot stop, unless you learn how to be in control of the mind will be in control of you.
So even listening to them and saying yes, yes, you're binding the karma.
Yeah.
Anumodana.
Lesser, yes.
It's the same anumodana when somebody does a good thing, they do atta and you say, Khub anumodana. And they say something and you say, yes, yes, it's the same anumodana. There are 3 ways to bind karma. If you were listening, end of every verse, I was saying by asking others to do, it's the same thing. I don't have to do something. If I convince you to do it, that's my karma. And by consenting to what others are doing, it's the same karma. Karu, karau, ne karta hoye nu anumodana karu, it's the same thing. And it's the same thing whether it's man, vachan or kaya, mind, speech or body. That's the 9 ways, 3 by 3. There's a lot of Michami Dukrams tomorrow to come. Yes.
My question was, we are here, present, what we can see and what we know. Can the karma balance out at all?
In what way balance
I
out?
mean, we always say about good karma
So-
to balance?
The balance is this, that until we can stop doing bad karma, we should always do good karma. How do you do good karma? Be kind, be compassionate, help others, be of service. That is good karma. The reason is that there are some karma which you can never get rid of. We call them nikachit. Because you have bound them so tightly, they're chikana, you can't get rid of them. What the only thing good karma will do for you is reduce the impact. Because there's so much good and bad, the good will reduce the bad, or the effect of the bad. Now, why is this important? Because the one thing in this life that will change everything for you is the day you experience your Atma. That day means you will understand who you are and not this body. But to experience your Atma, there is a lot of karma between your Atma and you currently. To reduce that Atma is only one way really to do it in this time, which is that you do good religious deeds. That's why we go to Derasa, do Pratikraman, do Arti, Puja, Swadhyay, all these things bind the good karma that keeps suppressing that bad karma. And you get to a point where you'll suppress it enough just to get a glimpse. Like sun coming through the clouds, just a little glimpse. But that's enough. Because once you know, then it's not about belief, it's about experience. Right? So once you know, everything will change. But the only way to get to it is to keep doing good things. The problem is this. We don't know how much bad karma we have. So we don't know how much good we have to do. So it means you have to do good all your life. And at some point, it'll pay you back. The other thing is that 2/3 of your way through your life, you will bind your next life. But we don't know when that is. We don't know whether that's at 50, 60, 70, 80. Again, at that point. So if at that point you're bad, it has an impact. So being good actually...
Good all the time.
Exactly. So this is why we do religious things. This is why we go to Derasas, or why we do Pratikraman, or stavans. All these things are designed to bind the good karma that will suppress the bad karma, that will give you that glimpse at some point. And you see this, that people who practice religion start to show the qualities of religion. They become content, quieter, happier, compassionate. You don't see them shout and scream, get angry, these sorts of things, because they're beginning to get those qualities that are there. They're suppressing their passions and their, things like anger and whatever. If you don't see that, that means the practice isn't really happening. That practice will give you results. That's how you understand whether it's having an effect. And if it's having an effect, it automatically moves you in the right direction, because you stop reacting, stop becoming angry, stop doing some of these things. So it's a good cycle, but you have to start the cycle. If the cycle is already going the other way, that you're focused on everything material and everything outwardly, then that cycle is also the same. I mean, you see people, for example, who love playing cards, and they will do it 5 days a week. Now, that is a cycle. It's the same thing with religion, that if you get to a point where it, you see the benefit of it, you will start doing it regularly, and that cycle will give you its own results. But it's necessary if you want to achieve it. Did that answer your question?
Sometimes, there's a saying, so that's what I was trying to say. Does it benefit?
And it's the same here. It's the same here, that whatever is happening to you, when you go to India and you go to these villages and you see the kids there and whatever, they have, in our terms, really nothing. Yet they have so much happiness.
Yes.
They have friendship. They play with everything and anything. They don't need PlayStation and Xbox and all of these things. They don't need mobile phones. It is possible to be happy in any situation, as long as your happiness is not linked to the things that you see outside. If you can only be happy because you have a Mercedes, if you can only be happy because you're living in a detached house, if you can only be happy if this happens and that happens, these are all things outside your control. You'll never be happy. If you can be happy anywhere because you're alive today and in a better place than 90% of the world, you'll always be happy. So in this, the good karma is absolutely necessary, but don't forget that happiness is in here, in your mind, because it's linked to what you attach to yourself to. And you see when you see people who are sad, why are they sad? They're always sad because they've lost something that they're attached to. If you're tightly attached to something and it goes, whatever it is, it causes you great sadness. But that thing is material. We live in a world where nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. It's all going to go. I was reading somewhere that if you think about this from another perspective, if you think about your great-grandfather, your grandfather's father, you probably don't even have any idea of who he is, what he did. But he at some point would have done the same things that we do. He would have, accumulated things, thought if I give things to my children, they'll have a better life. All of these things they would have done. And yet within 2 or 3 generations, nobody even remembers who they were or what they did or knows anything about them. So what's going to happen to us in 2 generations? So this is worth remembering that, it's all temporary. It's all temporary.
Maharaj Sahib said કે તમે કંઈ પણ ખરાબ કરવા કરતા હો અને જો તમારું આયુષ્ય ત્યારે બંધાઈ જાય તો પછી આપણું એક આયુષ્ય તો બંધાઈ ગયું હવે ગુડ છે કે બેડ છે શું ફરક પડવાનો છે I don't know.
So if you bound your next life, what's the point of being good or bad? The point of being good is that the good karma you bind will go to your next life.
So to reduce that.
Yes. If in your next life you have nothing but good karma, nothing but good will happen to you. See, karma is like a mirror. If you look at that person in the mirror, if you're laughing, that person is laughing, and if you're crying, that person is crying. It's the same thing. Whatever you do will come back exactly the same way. And so what you should always think about is that, we spend our whole lives trying to lighten this burden, that if I work harder, my kids will get a better education, we'll have so we spend our whole lives trying to do things to, lighten our pain, but the pain has come from our previous actions. So if you change your actions, you don't have to lighten the pain. It'll automatically lighten.
આપણે ક્યાં સુધી કેરી ઓન કરીએ આપણા કર્મ સારા કે ખરાબ ફોર અ લોંગ
Long time. Some karma,
after death also we are
some karma lasts for several births. Some happen here and now. You see, what decides is how much anger or pride you had when you bound it. The more you have, the tighter the glue, the longer it takes.
એ ચીકણા કર્મ કહેવાય
Nikachit.
નિકાચ
They're tikrans.
These babies who are born with clefts, right? My own personal belief is genetics rather than any theory of karma. And it can be easily corrected through surgery, and they have a decent life into adulthood and so forth. I personally don't believe a baby has been born with so much not pain, but karma that
So,
that their karma has caused the cleft.
so when you think about children born with deformity,
Yeah.
children born in poor areas. So today, if there's a baby born in Gaza, in the middle of a war, it's the same type of scenario. There are three causes for these things, when you think about these realistically. Because this life is not the first or the only life. In Jain Dharma, it is a continuation of your reincarnation. Okay? So there are only three reasons why something could happen. It happens because God wants it to happen, but we don't believe in that kind of God. It happens because your luck is like that. But for a baby, there's no luck and there's nothing in this universe that is random. Everything is systematic, it's organized, it's structured. When you look at even things like the planets in the universe, everything is in a systemized way.
No, I accept that.
So hang on. So the third thing is what causes that, and the third thing, because if it was just the environment, every baby in that environment would have the same disability, but it's not the case. And so what happens? So in Jainism we call this Nam Karma. Nam Karma determines your body, and the idea of the Nam Karma. The idea of the Nam Karma is that it binds the type of body you get. So even in adulthood, you see some people are healthier than others. Some people are more prone to diseases, illnesses, all of these things. And this happens because of your Nam Karma. Now, the question is, can you do something about it? Yes, because if you have enough good karma, then somebody will correct this and you'll have a good life. But it doesn't happen to everybody. So, again, these things are not random. There's a reason for those. And that's why when I say that these things cause you pain, that's the pain that they cause you. That they, bind karma that will make you suffer, because that is, in reality, what karma does. It causes suffering. So when you think about that idea of deformity, or why you're living here and other people are living in areas where there's a war or a famine or whatever, there's no coincidence. It's the karma. So your family is your gotra karma. Why are you born in that family? If that family actually is religious, then from a young age you will learn religion. You go to Pathsara, you go to whatever it is. So all of these things have a big impact. And all of these things are controlled by the karma you bind in this life.
So that baby was born because of his or her karma, ne?
Yes.
Past.
Yeah.
Okay, it's yes.
Vash, જરા quickly can you જરા elaborate કરો રાગ ને દ્વેષમાં દ્વેષ એટલે શું?
Rag Nedvesh. So rag
Is attachment.
is attachment. Now, rag, so let me explain both. So rag means attachment, but attachment not just to, it means attachment to anything that you consider as me or mine. Like this body, my family, my house, but even my thoughts, because I think they're my thoughts. Dvesh is passion, anger, pride, deceit, greed, jealousy, hatred, and this passion is the reason that your karma sticks. Okay, if you have anger, your karma will stick more than if there's no anger. It'll come and go. So when we talk about dvesh, we're talking about the passion that is going to bind your karma. And one is the cause, rag is the cause of karma, because it affects you, and dvesh is the amount it binds, how hard it binds. Okay?
Interested. Is karma just shaped by you? Can it pass to your children, family?
Each person is a soul, individual, absolutely individual. So when you think about, so this is where there's a big difference between Hindu Dharma and Jain Dharma. You know, in Hindu Dharma, you see all these ideas of, you know, you're married for 7 lives and whatever. In Jain Dharma, your Atma is individual, which means that it has nothing other than this body relationship with any other Atma. So in the next life, you'll be somebody else, your family will be somebody else. So you cannot receive or give karma to anybody, it's yours. You can't do anything good for anybody. You see, if you try and do something good for me and I don't accept it, there's no outcome for you. So you have to think about that everything you do is only for yourself. If you send me, if I'm your child and you send me to a good school, yes, you're doing good from your perspective, but if I get to that school and I don't study, and I, always play with my friends and I'm out and whatever, there's no benefit to your deed. So what you have to do in terms of karma is to think about what you're doing and do it for the right reason, with the right power. As soon as your attachment, and it's an attachment, happens on the outcome of that action, then you'll always be disappointed. I was saying this 2 days ago, that when your kids go for an exam, what you have to worry about is whether they tried their best. Did you give it 100%? Did you study as hard as you could? Did you get everything done and did you give it 100%? After which, it's not in their hands. If the paper is tough, it's not in their hands. If the questions weren't the ones they studied, it's not in their hands. So all of this is outside. What's in their hands is that they put the effort. At the end of that effort, who knows what will happen? So you have to think of this karma as something that is yours and will never, you'll never get anybody else's and you'll never give anybody karma. It is attached to your soul, to your Atma, and it can't be removed and transferred. The problem we have in this life, from a Jain perspective, is we have no idea how much karma we have. So what we do is when we see somebody, if they have a good, strong body, healthy body, if they're knowledgeable, if they are doing well, if they're a positive person, you see all these traits, they're compassionate, that is an indication that their karma is light and that they're progressing. You see, some people will always end up from one mess to another and, nothing ever goes right for them, and this is an indication of heavy karma. That whatever they do, the karma is always trying to stop them. Antray. It's always trying to stop them.
So it's not something that you blame your grandfather did something bad.
No. The only thing you can blame your family for is that the karma you had gave them to you as your family. That's it. But then it was your karma, so you can't blame them.
એટલે તમે કોઈને શ્રાપ ના આપી શકો, બરોબર ને? તો હિન્દુ ધર્મ તો આખો શ્રાપથી જ ભરેલો.
Hindu Dharma, because they have this idea of God, Bhagwan, that what happens is that, તમે જો in Hindu Dharma, there is this idea of that with Bhagwan's grace, your pap can go, you can go to heaven, if you do the right sacrifices. All of these things are because there is a God. Aprama, if you give somebody a shrap and that person doesn't accept it, nothing happens. When it happens, it's because તમે મને શ્રાપ આપ્યો and મારા મગજમાં આવી ગયું કે આ શ્રાપ છે, and I start behaving like that because it's in my mind. That's when it happens. If in my mind I say, what is he saying? This is nonsense. Nothing is going to happen.
પણ તમને ખબર બી ન હોય કે એને શ્રાપ આપ્યો છે તો આવું
ના, પણ મોઢે આપે તો then I know. If he comes and tells me.
હા, પણ મનમાં કોઈ રીતે આપી દીધું. કીધું કે આપણે એક્સેપ્ટ ન કરીએ, પણ ખબર જ ના હોય તો ઓફકોર્સ
No. But ખબર હોય તોય, if you don't, when you accept it,
ઇગ્નોર કરો.
when you accept it, then it keeps running in your mind કે મને આ શ્રાપ આપ્યો, જાત થવાનું, and you make it happen. તમે, you see, when you think about things, વિચાર આવે ને, એ વિચારના કર્મ થાય. ને એ કર્મનો ફળ મળે તમને. So you get the action of your thoughts. એટલે what you think is actually what you will become.
સારા વિચાર સારા માણસ બને, ખરાબ વિચાર ખરાબ.
Always.
That's true.
What you're saying about shraps is actually જે શ્રાપ આપે એ કર્મ બાંધે છે, જેને એ
બસ.
શ્રાપ આપે doesn't affect them
Doesn't, unless they let it.
unless they let it.
Yes. And the people who are giving it will always give it out of rage or anger or something like that. And you see that in all the Ramayans and Mahabharats, and they're really angry, and then with that doing anything out of anger is binding tight karma, nikachit karma. It's 5 to 9. One more question? If not,
I kind of had a question. We've been talking about mindfulness, monogenesis. That's exhausting.
about?
Being mindful constantly.
Yes.
Plain exhausting. How do we tackle that?
It's exhausting until it becomes your nature. You see, it's like everything else. When you first start, you say you decide I want to start running. And what will happen is you go out and you run 100 meters and you're exhausted. Then next day it'll be 120. At some point you'll run marathons. But by that point, it's so part of your nature that to run somewhere is just normal. And so until it becomes something that is just normal for you, then there is no effort, it just happens. But until that point, you have to keep reinforcing it.
Awareness.
And you have to keep pulling your mind back. It's kind of going this way, you pull it back, you pull it back, you pull it back. And then someday it'll just stay here. And at that point, there's no effort because it's just here. But it takes a lot of time. There was a question at the back.
Ask a question. Your karma is carried forward to, let's say, next life. But you have to be born as a human being to suffer from that or get the fruit of that karma.
Not necessarily.
So animals can have that.
So the fact that you're an animal is actually the fruition of that karma. You see, the idea of these birds, whether it's heaven, hell, human, animal, is only for you to experience the karma you have bound. So if you have bound karma, that means you have to become an animal. The reason you're being an animal is for that karma to release, because now you're suffering as an animal. If you think of the life of an animal, if you're a deer, every day it's the same thing. You're struggling for food, you're worried that some lion is going to come and eat you, and you're trying to fit in with a family or whatever else, right? That is suffering, and that suffering is because of that karma. So if you have a life in any of these scenarios, it's an indication of the karma you have.
So do the animals bind karmas?
Yes, but not in the same way, because they don't do it with the same power that humans do. But when you become a human, there are two things that you get. You get this mind that allows you to discriminate. So one of the things in the Pratikraman saying, judging right or wrong without discriminating. In your mind, you can decide this is right and this is wrong. And in your mind, you can put positivity or negativity to that, which is your power. So through that mechanism, you can actually break out of karma. That's why this is considered the best life. That you are able to break out, even though bad karma is coming, you can become positive. If today you sit and think, oh, I've got such a bad life, blah, blah, blah. Or you can sit and think, I'm better than 90% of the world that doesn't get 2 meals a day. It's the same thing, but your mind can decide. And that binds the karma. If you're always in gratitude, always positive, always compassionate, you'll always bind good karma. That means you will change your life because the next life will be much better. So in reality, it's all in here. It all depends on how you handle everything.
That can only be done by the human beings.
Yes. So the human life is a life where you get an opportunity to actually change and destroy your karma. Every other life, you're suffering it. Even if you go to heaven, yeah, you'll have a good life because you have to spend the good karma. At the end of the good karma, you have to come back. Then you go into the next life. So it's not like a destination, it's just like a holiday. You come back to reality. When you're here, you have a choice. Your mind has a choice because you can discriminate. Your body has a choice because you can decide how to spend your actions. And you can say, I'm going to have, you know, how many people say, this is my only life, I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest. And yet so many people say, I'm so grateful to be born as a human, I'm going to spend my life as a sadhu. It's the same life, but people take massive positive and negative views of it. That's why this life is the best life there is, that you get that choice. That choice then resets your direction. The one thing that I'll tell you is that there is one formula that you should realize, which is in almost every religion. So in Christianity, it says in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. In Jainism, it says if you want to come back as a human, be straightforward, transparent, straightforward. Don't be divisive, don't be, backbite, don't be devious, don't lie, don't be malicious. Be straightforward. Bhagwan no manas. That gives you this life again. So that is the formula, that if you are like that, you keep binding these lives, you can, in these lives, shed karma. In other lives, you can't do it. Here, you can do it voluntary. And so it means that it improves your direction. Please.
I was just wondering who keeps a record of our karma and who decides like I'll be an animal or a human.
So, who decides and who keeps a record? It's simple. You have an Atma. The Atma transfers from life to life. At the end of this life, it'll go somewhere, and last life, it was somewhere and came here. So, when you bind karma, the karma attaches to your Atma. When it attaches, what it does, because don't forget, Atma is energy, karma is particle. It's very difficult for energy and particle to mix. But it's a bit like if you have a glass of milk and you put water in it. They're now mixed, even though they're two separate things. But if you apply enough heat, the water will evaporate, you still have milk. So it's the same thing, they're mixed. Because they're mixed, the qualities of the Atma disappear, they're weakened. It's a bit like the sun and clouds. The clouds make the sun disappear. It's still there, but you can't see it. So at the end of this life, the karma that you have decides where the next life is, because the karma will have to find a way out, and the way out is through another body. So it finds the next body. Whether it's in hell, in heaven, as an animal, as a plant, as a human, it finds the body. In that, you then have, so if you're a human, you have the type of body. Some people are tall, some are short, some are healthy, some have, disability. It finds the type of family, because that makes a big difference. And then you see this in, when you have kids and things, you'll see this, that their knowledge is not the same, their attention is not the same, their luck is not the same. All these things are the karma they've brought. So this is how it has effect. And so there's nobody that actually keeps a record, is what is attached to you. And when you get rid of it, then your Atma becomes pure, it can't have another life, so it becomes liberated.
So the type of karmas attached and number of karmas attached
Are physically there and will transfer. So your actions determine the type of karma, and the passion that you do it with determine how much karma and for how long they will last. So if you are somebody who is always lying and always devious and get round to people and all of that, that has an effect to bind your life as an animal, because most animals do that. So it has a direct impact. What you think and do has a very direct impact on the life that you get. You see, if you go to, for example, a doctor, and he'll tell you genetically, your whole family is diabetic, so there's a high chance that you will get diabetes, but it needs a trigger. Something has to cause it. Even if you have that genetic, if you're careful from day one, nothing will happen. So yes, it's there, but it also then depends on your effort. And it's that with everything else, that when you go to a school, send your child to school, if it's difficult, it then depends on their effort. If they put the effort in, they will study and learn. If they say it's too difficult, I can't do it, they'll fail. It's effort. But the karma will actually decide how much effort they need. Some kids learn like this, and some need all the tuition they can get. It's the same thing. But yeah, it's inside. It's bound to you. But when you look at somebody, when you look at their face, what do you say when you see somebody with a lot of good karma? That they've got tej, right? That's good karma. You can see it. You see a sadhu, most sadhus, you'll see so much tej on their face, so much brightness, so much purity. That's the karma showing. So the karma, if you know where to look, actually exhibits itself. You see it in the way things happen to people, the way they are, the way they look, the way they behave. It's in there. It's always there. And you can see that if you know how to look.
એવું નથી ને કે આપણે કંઈ કરીએ છીએ સમથિંગ બેડ અને દેન વી બિલીવ કે આવું નહીં કરવાનું આપણા છોકરા ઉપર એવું હોય ને ઇઝ ધેર કર્મ ઇઝ ધેર સફર
You can't bind karma for other people can't bind karma for you. You can't suffer for other people, and other people can't suffer for you. You can't say to somebody, "Tamara atla badha karma che, let me take some." Not possible.
અને હ્યુમન બિંગ આ લાઈફમાં આપણે બી હ્યુમન બિંગ ઇટ્સ નોટ ગેરંટી કે નેક્સ્ટ હવે આપણે હ્યુમન બિંગ તરીકે કોણ થશે.
It depends on what karma you've done. If you spend most of this life being straightforward, without, and straightforward, transparent, without, these things like you see that if you're gossiping, backbiting, doing a lot of these things, saying lies, saying whatever, that will bind you a life somewhere else. If you're honest, straightforward, simple, then you get another life as a human being.
So you have to keep on doing good.
You have to be a very simple person, straightforward person. What happens is people believe that when they do these other things, they'll gain something. If you gain something, it's here, but it's not in the next life. So what you have to decide in this, like with everything else, is are you playing this life for one life, or are you playing for many lives? And the many lives depends on your belief that I'm an Atma, there's reincarnation, what I do now I will get back in my next life. So that belief means you don't have to worry about this life. Most people worry about this life because they believe I'm the body, and whatever I can do with this body in this life is the only thing I'll do. I'll ask you one question to prove my point a little bit. If I said to all of you that getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do Pratikraman will have massive benefits to you, A, how many will believe me, and B, how many will do it? And that's the problem with religion.
Maybe one day.
That's the problem with religion.
believe you, but
Maybe you do in the beginning, but then you stop it.
Yes.
You won't be disciplined, like continue. That's why we can't achieve as much as
It's easy to believe, isn't it? It's mainly if you believed you, we would do it.
It's discipline.
If you say 6 o'clock, it's possible. 4 o'clock.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Any more?
આપણા આત્માને કર્મ લાગ્યા ક્યારથી વેરી ફર્સ્ટ ટાઈમ
એ કોઈને નથી ખબર.
નથી
And what we don't know, કે આત્મા આવ્યું ક્યાંથી? We don't know.
કારણ કે પહેલા જો આત્મા જો પ્યોર હોય તો સીધો સિદ્ધ
હા.
સિદ્ધમાં જ વયો જાય.
Exactly. Like we don't know, and we don't know, ke, in a, because we believe that Atma starts as something called Nigod, which is a very small thing, and that there are infinite number of these particles which have Atmas in them, floating everywhere, and out of there some become humans or other things. But when they become a human or something else, why did they have karma? We don't know. That's the one question that we don't know. And we don't know why some people have more karma than others, even at the start. No idea. And you can't answer that question even if there's a Bhagwan, there's a God, because then the question is, why did God give you karma and then put you here? This question in one of the texts was asked to Buddha Bhagwan, and he said, when it's time for you to know, you will know. When you get Keval Gnan, you will know. Until then, it's not
આપણા
relevant.
ગ્રંથમાં આગમમાં ભગવાને ઈ કેમ
Chetni.
નથી ને
There's no answer to it.
There's no Bhagwan in the Buddha.
No, but there's nobody who actually can answer it. Where did this Atma come from and why did it have karma to start with? No answer.
So one will never know that.
And also, you see,
the theory of evolution, it doesn't apply.
Huh?
Theory of evolution.
No, we believe in the theory of evolution, but we also believe that this isn't the only planet. When you think of planets, when we say Simandar Swami, we believe he's on Mahavidya Kshetra, right? Another planet in another system. So, and the reason it's necessary to have more than one earth is if I've done a lot of good, there has to be an earth I can go to with that karma. So there have to be planets at different stages that are for my karma, right? So in that, we believe in evolution, that evolution is how we, got here, but this is not the only here. And so when we say to people, what, in this time of Kali Yuga or whatever you call it, how do you get liberation? They always tell you, go to Mahavidya Kshetra, Simandar Swami is there, you get liberation. So there are always planets that are there. Also, you see, we believe in the idea of the universe running itself. There's no creation. The question that again people ask is what happened, what was there before the universe? We have no idea of the beginning.
It was always there.
Yeah.
Always will be.
So એવું કે આપણે એમ કહે છે કે સિમંદર સામે એ લોકો ત્યારે they are જીવતા દેહ છે. તો એવું કંઈક થાય કે ભાઈ એ લોકો કંઈક બોલે ને it happens બોલે એટલે કહે છે ને કે અત્યારે એ લોકો નાનું છે.
So you see,
like Munishwar Swami, Simandar Swami.
you see, the purpose of having the purpose of having a Tirthankar is two things. One is that it tells you that in that time it is possible to get moksha. In this time it's not possible, right? But in that time it is possible. And the second thing it tells you is that there's somebody teaching the right religion. Because the religion of Bhagwan Mahavir was about achieving moksha. The religion after him was becoming good because you can't achieve moksha. So how do you get a good next life? That's what this religion is now. It's not about moksha. It's about getting good karma to get a good next life. Bhagwan Mahavir's religion was just about getting moksha. So he talked about wandering on your own, basically taking dikshas, suffering whatever there was, and you will achieve it if you can do this. Now, even if you do it, you can't achieve it. So now we talk about good next life. Yes. So if you go to where Simandar Swami is, again, there is a Tirthankar, you can achieve moksha. And this is, you see, this is the benefit that is in the right time frame. We are now in the wrong time frame. And this won't be in the right time frame for about 80,000 years. Shall we finish? Or shall I carry on? That's it? No more questions? They're all enlightened. Well, in that case, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Please come and do Samvatsari Pratikraman tomorrow. It is necessary. Please say Michami Dukram to everybody. It's necessary. And I hope your religious practices are fruitful. Thank you. Jai Janendra.
Thank you very much, Melbai. Thank you very much, Jai Ben.
Yes.
Very, very good. Even the question answer sessions are very, very good. At some point, we would like to make this more of a regular thing. I'm sure people would be interested from what I can see.